Hello and thanks for staying with us. Welcome to Political Platform on Repa FM and Africa Independent Television, AIT. My name is Amechi Anapwe. As Nigeria inches closer to the 2027 general election, the nation's political landscape is becoming increasingly complex. At the same time, many Nigerians remain concerned about the economy, the cost of living, insecurity, unemployment, and whether the electoral process will inspire greater confidence than in previous elections. With campaigns expected to intensify in the coming weeks, critical questions are emerging. What is the true state of our country today? Are the country's democratic institutions strong enough to guarantee a credible election? Can political leaders rise above personal ambition to address the pressing needs of citizens? And what issues should define the national conversation as Nigerians prepare to elect a new set of leaders? To help us examine these issues and provide perspectives on the country's political direction, governance challenges, and prospects for the next elections in January and February, we'll be joined by former presidential advisor and elder statesman, Dr. Usman Bugaje. We shall also give you updates on the probe of budgetary allocation to a phantom presidential council by a committee of the House of Representatives. Top government functionaries are taking turns to stand before the committee to provide information as to what role the institutions played in all this, and we'll be giving you what transpired, especially the absence of the man at the center of it all, Adeniyi, who the police failed to present before the committee, citing some legal reasons, court orders asking the police to remind him. My colleagues are here with me. Uju Eje is here, Sholaja Simi is here, and Mustafa Mohammed completes our number. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Doctor.
I will start with this clip from the House of Representatives. We told you on Wednesday, some government officials took turns to indeed testify, but let's share with you back and forth between the representative of the police and Assistant Inspector General of Police and Chairman of the House Probe Committee on the absence of Adeniyi.
The IGP has been mandated to produce the suspect, Prince Adeniyi Adeyemi Matthew, before the committee members today, but that is not being done due to the fact that is at present, that is the suspect, being held in custody based on a subsisting warrant for him to be detained. And as it is so, in order for us to be able to continue to relate well, we are of the opinion that the Honorable Committee Chairman as well as the committee members could seek or avail us a court, a reproduction warrant, sir, for us to be able to produce him.
We have established documents that were fake. We have established where the budget emanated, how it emanated, the document forged to misguide public office holders from emanating. We have equally discovered that Prince Adeniyi had been creating fake names in the villa, in the State House, that does not exist at all. So general public and members of the press, let us be fair to this investigation, to this circumstance. We should not be carried away by politics or hate to an institution like National Assembly or hate to the government of the day and keep the real facts of the matter and begin to pursue shadow. Letters have been forged. It's not only one letter that is said to have been forged from the Chief of Staff, by the man emanating and forging the signature of the Chief of Staff. There are 19 different documents that was forged.
Interesting developments. Your way in.
You know, when this crisis started, a lot of people, for political reasons, tried to pull down the chief of staff by carrying out a media trial. And I gave an example of Oluwole Street in Lagos, Lagos Island, where people can print all manner of documents, traveler checks, international passport, bank checks, all manner of forgery university certificates up to PhD. For a very long time, such people have had their day, and because the system in the country has not severely punished master forgers, including currency printers that have been arrested from time to time. We've not had what followed. And for me, what Adeyemi has allegedly done is not surprising. And Gagdi in the National Assembly, just Honorable, has just spoken about 19 different letters that have been forged with fictitious names from attributed to the presidential villa, signatures, letterheads, and what have you. The investigation still continues. The police and EFCC are also doing their work.
ICPC.
Yes, ICPC. I think at the end of the day, should allow the law to take its course. Because if you fail to punish people who have done wrong, it also sends the wrong signal that other people can do the same thing and get away with it. I now realize that it's just a crime being committed. There's no politics in it.
Have you reached your conclusions already?
Yes, I'm talking as regards what the National Assembly member said they have discovered. Those discoveries can stand as evidence against the person.
But they've not heard from the man himself. So
when you have a forged document, it doesn't matter who did that, whether it's Adeyemi or another person. Forgery is a crime. He just confirmed that there are 19 forged letters. You see, in Nigeria, we always cause distraction. For example, you see bandits invading communities, killing people. Instead of calling them criminal, you begin to call them Fulani bandits, Igbo armed robbers, Calabar drug importer. You understand? We don't need to bring in distraction. I'm actually very happy that the House of Representatives is discovering a lot of things.
No, you know, the issue here is that allegations were made from both ends. The man repeatedly said, I paid money to facilitate things.
You should present evidence.
That's the issue. That's our hope yesterday was that the police will bring him before the panel so that he will speak to the issues and it will lead the House committee to a definite
Doctor, that is entirely a different thing. You know, when this crisis started, we had an argument here. Under the laws, he who alleged has the burden of proof. I said when he carried out that press briefing, it's wonderful that he came out and spoke. I was also expecting for him to have recorded when he was handing over that money or some paper.
So these are what he will put before the House committee when he comes.
Yes, but then you come out, invite the journalists because we as pressmen are gullible. You just come and tell us that somebody has collected 400 million.
Well, I'm not gullible.
It appears as if you have convicted the
exactly.
No, I'm talking about the issues. Yes. If you are saying that you have given money to prove to the journalists, now why is it that most times people use the press? Give us a concrete evidence to work with. If we are carrying a story, we should have a very
would you? Let's get your perspective.
You see, Mustafa, I do not think we can conclude on that issue for now because a lot of things are still not very, very clear. Yes, it said he should have brought evidence or whatever, but who, again, we've not heard from the man. In the first place, he went into hiding because he was somewhat scared or so, I don't know. And then he was eventually arrested. Nobody has actually heard from him one-on-one. about the allegations that he has made. The House is probing. The man has not been brought before the House committee, so it would be unfair to just conclude. And again, you see a failure of the system. You claim the man brought 19 forged documents. Who were the people that received these documents? Who were the civil servants that received and then did not do due diligence? Because we're talking about money running into billions. And it is expected that whoever is in charge of that in the ministries, departments, or agencies of government, especially the CBN, will take a critical look at that document, screen and ensure that the documents are genuine. You don't just pick a letter. So me, I can just write a letter now and forge the signature of somebody from the villa, and then you attend to it. It's a big failure of the system, is a big failure on the part of those who are supposed to handle that, if it is true. But of course, we are still going to hear from the other side, and I hope they will allow us to hear from the man, to hear from the other side, possibly bring the evidence that he has, and if he has none, then the law should take its course.
Is that there is an order of the court that the man should be remanded in his custody, that for them to release him to the House committee has to approach that court, or indeed any other court.
So let the House committee do that.
Another order.
The House committee, the onus is on the House committee to do that now, because you can't come out and tell Nigerians this is what has been discovered based on evidence provided by the other side, and the main character, Nigerians have not heard from him. If that is what it will take for the man to be able to appear and for us to hear from him, then they have to do it. You can't do your job half and half, if I may use Nigerian parlance. Let them do their job thoroughly. Let them get that man. They have the powers. Let him come.
Maybe what Mustafa was saying here was that the House has established cases of forgery, that the documents in their possession as supplied by Adeni and those at the council were fake. So perhaps to them, this some form of definite stand, fake document, but we need to hear from this man.
Amechi, either way you look at it, we need to hear from that man. Because the kind of boldness with which the man was taken on the system and the big men in the villa, I do not think it is an ordinary confidence. We need to hear from that man. Maybe he has some other things. Let us see the whole, whether the whole evidence or whatever it is that the man has that is giving him that kind of boldness. We need to see it. We need to know.
Shola Jaisimi, the representative of the police is actually a deputy commissioner?
Exactly. Okay, Mr. Akintola, who works as deputy director in the cyber crimes unit of the Nigerian police. So that's his designation, that's his name. I'll come from the perspective of us needing to highlight something as we analyze this issue. Number one, the main person in this case, the prime suspect, so to say, because he has been charged to court. The man who rose up to say, I will defend you over these allegations for which you are being, quote, hounded, as at that time, Mr. Femi Falana, pulled out and said, I will not handle Matthew Adeyemi's case anymore, Adeyemi's case anymore.
Because he has been granting interviews.
Yes. Number two, Honorable Gagdi, who chairs this committee, has alleged, like you've all mentioned, that the reports, or rather the letters they have with them, which they have cited, are forged fake documents. I would like him to go deeper, himself and the committee, because at times you need to do things in the light of the 21st century. He hasn't told us, him and the committee, whether those documents have gone through forensic analysis. It will help the committee, because you are investigating.
He's insinuating that it has.
So he should tell us, and say we have. Yeah, I didn't hear that in the statement, because I want to pick the words when people are at the public forum.
I thought he said they have established that about 19 documents.
Yes, a crime has been committed.
Yes.
No, he didn't say a crime has been committed.
When you say forgery, what do you mean?
No, you
speak different
when
English.
you say you have established that 19 documents were forged, that's crime.
The next question is by whom?
Exactly.
Good. And also, again, I'm bringing to the fore, because Uju has spoken and asked questions of civil servants, bureaucrats in the system. All what transpired yesterday is already in the papers. We took it in our news bulletin, so we're just analyzing. Miss, or is it Mrs. Esther Wilson Didijak came again and has told the committee, we didn't do a thorough job. Myself and my team, who are in the office of the federal office of the, which she heads, office of the HOS, head of service of the Federation, we did not do a proper job. And she repeated again, I have 30 years legal experience, we didn't do a proper job. I'm taking it back to what Uju has said. At someone at that level, with this scandal, which is staring us in the face, we run out there and try to do, good image for Nigeria. The things that are coming out, are like, are these Nigerian people serious at all? So at times we take 2 steps forward. Nigeria, a great country, we're moving on, we're making progress, but things that come out from public hearings like this put us in bad light. Should Mrs. Esther Wilson-Jack still be sitting there comfortably? Question. Because at times, when we leave those at the top, with due respect to her, and begin to chase some assistant directors, deputy directors,
from shadows,
who should carry the can? I would have thought, because of the weight of this issue, the president should have even done some things which he has power over. The ones he has executive power. Because, madam, this thing is causing us problem. Oh.
Is she the only one that didn't do
what
they ought to do?
Because she's the head.
She's the head.
Is she, because she admitted, she's the only one to have admitted?
That's a kudos.
Yes.
But when you admit,
yes.
Are we not seeing what is? Didn't we see what happened in Britain a couple of days ago? When people admit for things they have not done well, they take a bow. I'm not asking her to go into early retirement. I'm serving it back in the court of the president of the country. The president's Man Friday. If you read that literary classic, Robinson Crusoe's Treasure Island, the chief of staff. And is he going to come? I don't see him in the list, which the House of Representatives, of those they have invited.
He has been to ICPC.
Wait, now I'm talking of the committee. Are we saying because Mr. Gbajabiamila Mila is a former speaker, his erstwhile colleagues do not invite him? These are questions I'm asking.
Well, the issue here is that
there
are key issues that are before this committee. But to me, the most concerning is the fact that the man that could have established whether bribe was offered, whether it was collected, whether it was delivered, is no more. And why is he no more? He died in a mysterious circumstance.
Mr. Tanima.
Yes, and so it throws up a lot of issues. Perhaps if he's around, he could have helped alongside Adeni himself if he appears. I don't know how long it will take the House committee to approach a court and ask that court to issue a warrant for the police to produce. I don't know how long it takes. Whether the House committee will hold on with their work till the man comes, because principle of fair hearing indicates that you must hear from everybody before you reach conclusion. We expect them to, by this morning, to just begin the process and maybe approach, in an ex parte manner, approach any judge in his chambers and say, please grant us this request because we have a very critical work to do. But let's go on a break. When we come back from this break, we'll have our guests who will weigh in on Nigeria's state of the nation ahead of the 2027 general election. Do stay with us.
The Delta State government invites business leaders, global investors, policymakers, and industry captains to the Delta State Economic and Investment Summit 2026, themed Harnessing Our Strengths and Unlocking Our Potentials. Chief guest of honor, the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Senator Kashim Shettima, GCON. Keynote speaker, Director General of the World Trade Organization, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, GCON. Guest speaker, renowned scholar, Professor Patrick Lumumba. Chairman of the occasion, Engineer Austin Avuru. Other distinguished local and international participants will also be in attendance. Date, August 3 to 5, 2026. Time, 10 a.m. daily. Venue, Dome Event Center, Asaba. Chief host, His Excellency, Right Honorable Sheriff Obrewori, Governor, Delta State. Announcer, Dr. Kingsley Emu, Secretary to Delta State Government and Chairman Planning Committee.
As a man who risks so much in the struggle for the return of democratic rule in the dark days of military dictatorship, your greatest legacy would be the strengthening of our democratic institutions. Furthermore, there have been growing concerns about the electoral processes. We note the efforts being made to ensure that the elections are free, fair, and credible. It is our hope that you be on the forefront in demanding that the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, delivers credible elections to ensure that Nigeria is set on the path of national development and integrity. This ought to start with making voters' cards easily available to all eligible voters and end with election results that reflect the true choice of Nigerians. Adequate and timely funding of INEC is required to ensure that the agency inspires the confidence of citizens.
Our founding fathers did their best. They left us a nation, and we owe it to our generations yet unborn to build a nation of unity, stability, and prosperity for the future. All is fair in politics, and it's equal opportunity. INEC, you mentioned, are neutral. They've never intimidated anybody. If political opponents are crying wolves, maybe they are afraid of their own shadows and the uncertainty in the companies they keep. Not me.
Thank you so much for staying with us. Catholic bishops of Nigeria's visit to the president, highlighting concerns about the credibility of next elections in 2027, and the president weighing in with a response. INEC, as far as is concerned, is credible, and that the opposition perhaps seen a figment in the imagination of any attempt to indeed commit fraud in that election. And he promised he will wrestle with the opposition to the very end in that contest. We have our guest for today, an elder statesman and former presidential advisor, and also former member of the House of Representatives, Dr. Usman Bugaje. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's my great pleasure.
So is it a concern worth sharing with the president? Fears and concerns about credibility of the next election?
Well, I think we should thank the bishops for acting as they should, as the conscience of society. When there are issues that are very of serious concern to the nation, it's part of the responsibility of scholars and religious people to engage government and to share with government the concerns of the people. There are a lot of concerns around INEC. Ask all the opposition political parties. There is not a single one that I know that does not have one complaint after the other. Even as there is supposed to be a mechanism through which INEC sort of engages the political parties. That is the IPAC. So that any issues, remember I was myself one time national secretary of a political party. So we used to go to the INEC, sometimes on the invitation of INEC itself, especially when they are going to start an electoral procedure, or sometimes, at our own request as IPAC. And we need to, we do put things on the table and we discuss and we agree. Now, what I have seen and what I've heard from those who go is that that kind of mechanism has almost broken down. There is a semblance of it, but there is not much that is taking place in terms of that. And too often, when IPAC make requests, you find a kind of an attitude of INEC trying to say that they, as INEC, they have the power to do this, they have the power to do that. And I've had complaints of political parties on some INEC staff who seem to be operating, in fact, outside the scope of INEC. That some of these charlatans and mercenaries that are, from all that we can see, funded by government to become the kind of the spanners in the work of the different political parties in the opposition, seem to link up with these staff in ways that, in fact, a lot of the commissioners of INEC don't seem to know. So there is a lot that is happening that is giving a lot of people concern. The problem is that even if the president gives an assurance, you know, the president has already lost so much credibility that you cannot take his words really for anything. I mean, nobody in the political arena now, even in the National Assembly, the leadership of the National Assembly, have a lot that they have not explained. Where is the 210 trillion naira? What has happened to them? What is happening? All the things that I learned you were talking about just before I came in, about the National Assembly committee for this. The National Assembly has, you know, long ago abdicated its responsibility, because a lot of these things, they ought to have found them even before journalists stumble on them. Because they are supposed to be constantly oversighting the executive. They are supposed to regularly be oversighting the executive. But as you know, and as many of the National Assembly, you know, members know, oversight has become another fraud. You know, members go and they are hosted and paid for, hotels and transport, by the very institutions that you are going to oversight. So what are you going to oversight anymore? Mm-hmm. Because if they are funding you and they are giving you money and they're giving you contract, then you can't.
That points to a corruption of some sort?
Of course. It's a terrible thing.
You were once at the National Assembly. Were there laws that disallowed such kind of...
There are regulations, you know, of how things should be done, but they have been violated severally, and by the leadership of the National Assembly of our own time. But things have gotten worse. I recall a member who stayed for some time. I walked into the National Assembly for some occasion, and he said, Honorable Bugaje, come. You thought I was one of the worst. I am a saint now, you know, compared to what my colleagues, you know, are doing. And things have been deteriorating. So coming back to the point you raised, yes, I think, like I said, we should thank the bishops, and I will encourage the Muslim clergy to do the same, because this is their role, really, as people of conscience. But I think, like I said, the assurances given by the president, for me, really doesn't mean anything. I mean, how many times has he spoken? And how many times have these speeches and these statements, you know, fell flat without any particular substance? So I would rather we turn attention to what can citizens led by the elite do in the event of breaches. This is really what we should be thinking, because nobody is going to tell you he's going to rig an election, right? Nobody is going to hold a press conference to say that, okay, I'm planning to. But we all know that elections are rigged. We have got so many. We have seen there are clips. And you can see
spoke
the antics.
about influence of religious leaders. But I also want to say that a lot of them, both the Christians and Muslims, are politically exposed, getting funding and donation from politicians, being sponsored to Mecca,
from
Jerusalem,
the budgeting.
Yes, exactly, including the recent budgeting process that caused crisis. Do you think such religious leaders in court can be trusted also?
Now, we need to be fair. Not all of them are like that. And I mean,
said some.
Yeah, I agree with you. So I think those who are not in that class of charlatans should be able to play that role. And I know quite a number of them in their churches, in their mosques. I've seen clips coming out speaking truth to power. I'm looking at that, or that group, you know, within both the Christians and Muslims, actually coming together working together, because it's part of what we need to do, to work together as religious people to salvage, just like the civil society, just like the elite. And one of the things that has delayed the recovery of this country, I think, is the lack of elite consensus. The elite of this country, I must say, have not been as responsible as they should. Because look, we have a country to build. Whether you come from the north, or you come from the east, or you come from the south, or you come from wherever you think you come from in this country, we have a country to build. And as we move into the 21st century, the globe is shrinking. The idea of somebody breaking up and going somewhere is really a stupid one. Because if you break up, okay, where do you go?
But you have right now, looking at the INEC chairman, since he came into office, and the kind of allegations of being partisan leveled against him, the actions of the commission today, do you think that he inspires trust and confidence in Nigerians?
He doesn't. He doesn't. But he has an opportunity to absolve himself and to behave differently, because he's now on the seat. If he doesn't, then he confirms our fears. If he decides to work as an independent organization, then he will now inspire a new confidence, and he will prove us wrong, and he will show that he can really do it. But as far as I know, up to this point in time, and I don't claim to know everything, but for what I know, he has not yet started behaving independently and trying to actually create that confidence. But he still has a few months to do so before the campaigns, pick up. Like I said, ask the political parties. They will tell you the hell they are going through with INEC. And the political parties, the INEC is also working in sync with the courts, as you have seen. It's like they compare notes before certain judgments are issued. There are a few judges, 1, 2, 3 there, that seem to bolt out and give independent. But on the whole, you can see almost every political party that is worth looking at is in and out of court for the last 6 months.
But doesn't this, Dr. Bugaje, doesn't this kind of, what some will call jurisprudence with regards to deep politics, doesn't it help deepen our democratic process, whereby when we write all of this, we now know where we are?
Of course it does. but the point I'm making is that see how judges are given conflicting judgments. You remember a particular federal high court given a judgment on a case for which an appeal court had already stayed action on, right? This means that they are not coordinated. This means that there are inducements coming.
But these could be allegations, because this particular judge, the appellate courts eventually rebuked him, and from what we are hearing, he may be answering to questions before the judicial body which sanctions judges. So is that not a process that says, even if you perform judicial rascality as someone on the bench, you will be taken care of by the same system? Doesn't it inspire confidence?
We are waiting to see the results. How many times have we had similar things, and after some time, everything goes quiet?
No, it doesn't go quiet, because if you check
we hope it will. But there are quite a number of things. I don't refer to the courts alone. Look at the 210 trillion. What is happening to them? 210
trillion what, sir?
Trillion, that was the audit of NNPC. You remember Adam Soshomale was shouting against his president, Akpabio, over this matter, that the NNPC, former NNPC MD, should come and explain.
But the chief financial officer came to explain and said the NNPC made 54 billion. That where is the 210 coming from? The former chief financial officer.
Now, where is the man himself? Has he come to really report? He was, asked to come 8 times, according to Adam Soshomale, and he didn't show up. And that's why he went as far as saying that they should bring him dead or alive.
But
You
maybe
remember the controversy?
going beyond that,
The point I'm making is that the whole system has become a racket. You see, because we don't seem to know even who to believe, who to trust. Because these institutions that are supposed to be independent have abdicated responsibility. The responsibility, let me start with the National Assembly, is the strongest institution in a democracy. Because they make the laws in the first place before the judiciary work on these laws. They do the budget, because the budget is like any law passed by the National Assembly. They oversight the executive in the implementation of the budget. They make inputs into policies. They ratify international agreements. They do so many things. But where is the National Assembly today?
Now,
where are they?
You're happy so much. You have identified it as perhaps the weak link. And you describe the National Assembly as one of the strongest institutions of our democracy, rightly. Now, if you said if they have been carrying out oversight, they don't need media or a civil society or anti-corruption organization to expose it. They should discover for themselves. You were in the presidential Villa Abuja as a presidential advisor. With your knowledge of working of the presidency, what will you say about this whole scenario? A letter emanating from the office of the chief of staff? What role for the secretary to the government or the federation and all that? And this going into this civil service, and now the controversy that has erupted.
Well, from my, I've been following even when out of government. I knew at the time we were 1999 to 2003, you can say up to 2007 I was in the National Assembly. The secretary to the government is the only office that, issues all the appointments, especially at those kind of levels where government appoints people, heads of parastatals, including ministers. I mean, even as special advisor, we were like, our offices, we had directors working with us from the office of both head of service and secretary to government, which means that the secretary to government's office was in full control. But from the time of late Buhari, we started seeing things that were strange. For example, you remember one time the managing director of the TCN was removed unceremoniously. He was not queried. He was not investigated. Nobody said, he just got a letter that he has been removed. And when I saw that posted on one of the platforms, I called the secretary to the government then. And I said, what happened? I'm seeing this letter. He said he also saw the letter. I said, let me just confirm with you. Were you not the one as secretary to the government who issued him a letter of appointment? He said, yes. I said, so how comes that he is now getting a letter of dismissal, not from you? He did not know.
Because during the military, it will just be announced over the network news.
Yeah, the point I'm making is that things started deteriorating, and I think they are building on that mess and making it worse. Because it's not the business of chief of staff to really issue appointment letters. The chief of staff
and he said he didn't issue any.
The chief of staff, I know he's supposed to really be chief of staff. He's dealing with the staff of the president. And his office is supposed to organize the trip of the president, the speeches of the president, the schedules of the president, who sees the president, who cannot see the president, and trips of the president outside. This is basically what he's supposed to do.
But recently, over time, since Obasanjo introduced that into our body politic, because it's not constitutional, we are beginning to see chief of staff become, over time, assertive, usurp sometimes the powers of the secretary to the government or the federation and all that.
But this is because government institutions have generally abdicated their responsibility, or they have been relegated, and offices, executive offices are being run very much like personal estates. You know, the principal, that's the president or the governor or the chairman of the local government, basically decides, irrespective of existing rules and regulations. And since there are no checks and balances, and the checks and balances should have come from their own state assembly, national assembly, and there are other institutions of government that are supposed to do it. We are not doing that. And that's basically the problem. But I think we have to underscore the point that this is happening because of one primary fault in our system that we are not really addressing. I know I've spoken a lot about this, but I have to continue until it really sinks into our psyche. That just one moment, madam, that we are bringing in people in government without any criteria. We don't have a criteria for leadership recruitment or leadership selection. And because we don't have a criteria, incompetent people, crooks, criminals have found their way. And that's what is happening. They are destroying the institutions. They are ignoring the regulations. And this, they do so shamelessly.
We've talked so much about the problems with our system, with governance in this country. I recall that between 1999 and 2007, I recall one particular meeting at Sheraton Hotel that you were one of the main speakers, and the issue was about how to get the National Assembly to keep to its mandate. And at another meeting, I recall, trying to clean up the issue about oversight, not accepting the help of the ministries, departments of or agencies that they are oversighting, like, most times when you say, oh, we're going to this ministry, before 8 o'clock, you see bosses from the ministry and everything. I recall the National Assembly, people like you agitating and saying, look, let us use our own resources. Let us use our own resources to do this thing so that we do not owe these people any favor or anything, and then we can do our job without anything. Now, we've seen all of this. It's deteriorating, like you have noticed. But then what is the solution? Now, how do we begin to retrace our steps to recover the real mandate of the National Assembly and get the National Assembly to do its job properly? Because we can't keep talking about problems.
Thank you very
solutions.
much for recalling that history. Now, you remember one of the things I said is, I should add, what you said rightly.
Yes.
We have a budget in the National Assembly for oversight. Every committee that is going for oversight, they will request what they need, and the Speaker will grant them from the budgeting. Because the National Assembly, both the House and the Senate, have their own budgets. They do their own budgets. They draw from those resources. So it's not that the National Assembly or the state assemblies don't have the money for that. And so you can see that there is even a provision for that. So there is no reason for any particular committee to want to take any money from the very institution it is, oversighting. Now, how do we correct that? But let me also say this. During our own time, and I remember I raised this issue, and I even went to the Committee on Anti-Corruption. Sometimes we just saw money in our accounts. And then I had to ask, what is this money for? Of course, my colleagues were saying, what is your problem? What's your problem if you don't want? I raised this issue, and I went to the chair of the Anti-Corruption Committee, and they called them, I think, DFS, Director of Finance and Supply, and we had to ask him that, there is no way you just put in money into without any explanation, because that's the beginning, of the corruption. So there were lots of things that were being done. But coming back to your point, how do we stop that? There are a number of ways to do so. First, there has to be the political will to stop that. I'm not sure there is in the kind of, politicians that we have right now. But all the same, if now that we have an election, we're able to elect credible, courageous, conscientious people who know what is right and would want to stand by it, irrespective. That's how we begin to get things. They don't have to be the majority. They just need to be few. Because when we were in the National Assembly, those of us who wanted to get things done rightly and correctly were very few. But because we were there, and because we will not allow the wrong things to be done, many other things that they wanted to do wrong, they could not do. Yeah. We were few. We came out to the press. We spoke to the press. We mobilized our constituencies. We mobilized the civil society. And we were able to stop and check a lot of mess. And this is how it should start.
Tying back
and
to
in history, if you go back to the British or even American congresses, you find that these people of conscience, you know, John Stuart Mill in Britain, for example, you know, is one of those, you know, scholars who went into Parliament deliberately and worked hard and to bring in a lot of changes. Of course, he couldn't come back for his second term because of, you know, what he did, but at least he got a number of changes done, and there was a lot of mileage. Mm-hmm. So I think the starting point is that in these elections, people must elect people, I mean, representatives, especially in the National Assembly and State Assembly, who are truly independent and who can really stand their ground and be able to connect with the press, with the people, in mobilizing society to see that the right things are done.
We'll have to thank you so much, Dr. Usman Bugaje, former presidential advisor, former member of the House of Representatives, and an elder statesman. What are you doing with your time now?
And a former secretary of the Action Congress.
Yes, Action Congress.
Tinubu's party.
Yes, well, you were once involved with Tinubu.
Well, I do a lot. In actual fact, the 24 hours are not enough for me. I still write academic conferences. I still coordinate research. I'm still in politics. You know, I've decided to go into the SDP because for me, of all those people that have come out, you know, Adewale Adebayo come across as somebody who even understands the correct conversation. Okay. So we are hoping that younger people like him and young people of this country should support people like him to be able to get us to where we should be.
The Afenifere agrees with you because Afenifere is also backing him.
Yeah, I mean, we're hoping, you know, as many people as have conscience.
Okay, once again, our appreciations for you honoring our invitations today.
Yes.
Okay, we hear from you now as we go into our feedback segment, Citizens' Perspective.
First letter is from Ayodele Okunfolami from Festac in Lagos. And Ayodele says that the president, a primary contestant in the coming election, is vouching for the credibility of INEC speaks volumes of the neutrality of the electoral body. Although, as cited in your comments on the platform yesterday, there is more to democracy than elections, and there is more to elections than INEC. Unfortunately for INEC, it remains the face of our democracy. Ideally, INEC should be faceless, but this is a democracy where a lot of things are wrong, and INEC has to bear the burden, so it is up to it to do all within its power to change the perception of the electorate towards it. Meanwhile, I disagree with your guest yesterday. INEC needs to set dates for the end of the continuous voter registration. Are we saying that if someone turns 18 on the eve of the election, he should be registered and included in the voters' register? Ugo Chukwanusion also writes from Lagos, and he says we should be fair to INEC and not totally lambaste them like Uju and Dr. Amechi did. And it's not true for Uju to say INEC became worse in 2015. History reminds me of Maurice Iwu. During his time as INEC chairman, the likes of Michael Jackson, Mike Tyson were voting in our elections. In fact, we still don't have the official result of the 2007 presidential election. Voting results were collated and announced while voting process was ongoing. And saying INEC announces results mostly in the night does not have relevance to the integrity of the result. Is INEC perfect? No. Have they improved? Yes. INEC has declared 11 local government areas in Osun as flashpoints. If the police don't protect the electoral officers, what do you want them to do? Trump complained of rigging during U.S. presidential elections, both in the one he won and lost. Our institutions are a product of who we are. Castigate them, but also appreciate where they did well.
Okay, this one we have from Peter. Peter writes in from Alimosho in Lagos. I still don't know why one can easily walk into any bank today and get an ATM card almost immediately, but can't get a voter's card. Some banks even hawk ATM cards along the streets. That's incorrect anyway. Some people don't vote because they don't want to. Some people because the process of getting voters' cards and the process of voting are too cumbersome. Making these processes easier will encourage more people to vote. Steve Black, who has written in from Lagos, I'm suggesting that there should be a law cancelling any election in any polling booth that has interference with activities of any political thugs, like it happened in Lagos in 2023, where thugs attacked people who wanted to vote for parties of their choice. We shouldn't allow that to happen again in 2027. God bless Nigeria.
Thank you so much for that, Mills. And I bet many people will agree with our listener that perhaps Morrissey, who holds the flag as the man that have conducted the worst election in Nigeria, because the winner of that election acknowledged that that election was fraudulent. At least that's my criteria.
There was one, is it Mr. Jack? Shola, can you recall the second name?
Of
an INEC chairman at a point in time when democracy was being restored.
For long.
Yes, I mean, that was, for us who covered the elections, that was almost like the ultimate. Because you went somewhere, you could see irregularities. Koro, like Nigerians will say, and you're pointing at it and he will be looking this way. You're tapping him to say, sir, look at what he's done.
What do you think? Who holds the flag?
Well, I don't know. I don't know how many of us remember someone who said something. I'm talking of someone who did something good now.
Yes.
Justice Ovie Whiskey in 1982. The man said, when he was accused of taking just ₦1 million, he said if he sees ₦1 million from anybody, he will faint. I don't know whether he fainted. 1982.
Okay. Mustafa, your call?
People will not faint here now because 90% of the houses being built or purchased or estate in Abuja, Gudapil, Metama, Athokoro are being purchased or built by...
No, I mean the worst INEC chairman in history.
You have Morris, but it's not the only one that is doing the wrong thing at the public official.
The worst in history. You agree with Morris?
There are so many.
Okay. Maybe when we come again, you rank them. Thank you so much for joining us today. Have a good time. My name is Amechi Anapwe.